Imagine being 15 years old and having a death threat against you. Then imagine the death threat actually happening. That's what happened to Mala Yousafzai. According to Biography.com, on October 9, 2012, a man boarded Mala's bus and demanded to know who she was. When her friends looked her way, her location was given away immediately. The gunman fired at her, hitting her in the head and hitting her in the left side of her head, and the bullet traveled down to her neck. Women in Pakistan don't have any rights. They can't do anything, and they can't have an education. Mala stood up for these rights. She was an advocate for women's education. The men involved in the Mala shooting were all arrested in Pakistan recently. Today I'm going to tell you who Mala is, what happened to her after the shooting, and what is happening to the men who shot her. Mala is an amazing girl. She wants women to be able to get an education in Pakistan. According to Biography.com, Mala was born in Pakistan. She became an advocate for girls, and she attended her father's school that he founded. Once the Taliban started attacking girls' schools, she gave a speech in Peshawar. The title of the speech was "How Dare Taliban Take Away My Basic Right to Education." She also blogged for BBC about living under the Taliban. She was also nominated for the International Children's Peace Prize in 2011. When she was 14, she found out the Taliban had a death threat against her. On October 9, 2012, Mala was shot in the head. Mala survived the gunshot to her head, and 1 year later, she sat down with Diane Sawyer. She's gone through a tough time, but she has gotten very good. Time Magazine took an excerpt from her book and shared it with us. Mala talks about the moment she woke up from being shot. She woke up in a different country. She didn't know what was going on. She had no idea who these people were. They were talking in a completely different language from her. She recalls not being able to speak or even smile because she had a tube down her throat because she couldn't breathe without it. So the only way she could communicate was with an alphabet board. And so she would point at the letters and spell out the words until she could write again. Today, she is healthy and still standing for women's education. According to Huffington Post, Mala was honored with Children's Peace Prize, and that she didn't let the Taliban get to her. During the interview with Diane Sawyer, Mala said, "I think death didn't want to kill me, and God was with me. You must go forward because education and peace is very important." She's not going to let anything get in her way. She's going to help women get an education over in Pakistan. She is currently attending school in Birmingham, and she also wrote an autobiography called "I Am Mala," the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. The Taliban still think she is a threat, but that's not going to stop Mala. Just recently, 10 militia were a part of shooting Mala, and they were just recently taken into custody. According to New York Times, the military spokesman, Major General, said the arrests were the product of a joint operation between military intelligence agency and the police. The arrests didn't all come at once. The attackers were part of a group known as Shura. The men were arrested, but they aren't sure if they've been charged yet, according to The Guardian. Because also according to The Guardian, they can be held for 90 days without being charged. So they aren't really sure if they have been formally charged. They also said by a member of the Taliban splinter, a group that the initiate tried to kill Mala, has been taken by junior fighters. And leadership was not informed about it. They didn't know anything about, the people in charge didn't know anything about the attack on Mala. So according to the membership, the leaders didn't know. So the men responsible for the shooting were recently arrested. Mala is an amazing person, and she's done a great job advocating for women's education. She did have a death threat against her, but she won't let the Taliban get to her. She was attacked on the school bus, and they shot her in the head, and it traveled down to her neck. When she woke up, she was in Birmingham. The doctors did such a great job that she is fully functional and is still advocating for women. She even wrote a book. So 2 years later, the men have been arrested, and they're all will eventually be formally charged. Today, we Americans are very lucky. Us women can do what we want. We can have our jobs. We can even get an education. The women in Pakistan can't do that, and Mala is trying to change that.